William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I welcome you to another Two Hats special of community events. Let's look in and see what's really happening.
And good afternoon and welcome to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink. Lerone is off for
Easter.
Right, I wasn't sure whether it was Easter or Passover. I guess he's doing an Easter egg roll?
Yes.
Not a Passover egg roll.
Yeah, doing something with eggs and bunnies.
No, egg rolls, it's Christmas. I get them confused. Our guests today are Sam Brukhman and Zhang. Stephen was in our studio a few weeks ago. How long ago was it? A month?
About a month ago.
Yeah. Taking photos of Patti. Now, one of the pictures I insisted he take was the picture of the chair before you got here.
Yeah, because I'm always late.
No, but
I have a reputation for being late. I'm not late today, but that's why they call it the late Patti Fink. And so when we post about the show,
I hope this will be.
Is Patti okay? What happened to Patti? That's awesome.
She's late. She's not dead. No, so anyway.
I'm not dead.
Sam is the founder and artistic director of Verdigris, and Zhang is a photographer who is contributing to this show. Or have you contributed to other Verdigris productions?
We collaborate on different concerts. Yeah.
And this is the one we know because it's about Patti.
Yeah. Well, just one of the faces. Yeah.
Well, that's going to be like 20 minutes of the show, yes?
Yeah.
So we're impressed. When is this show?
The show is April 26th, 27th, and 28th. April 26th and 27th are going to be at 7 p.m. April 28th at 2 p.m. at Arts Mission Oak Cliff, right across the street from Griner Exploratory Arts Academy.
Oh, okay. I used to live on, not Edgefield, the next to Clinton.
Yeah.
Right behind Griner.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because the building is sort of hidden almost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like surrounded by
Well, because the
neighborhood.
old Griner, they built it around the old Griner.
Yeah.
Because I was living there. This was in the 1980s when they built the new Griner, which I guess isn't so new anymore. But, yeah, it's a great school. So tell us, well, Patti, you asked because you're in this and you're confused.
Well, no, actually, I think I'm pretty clear on it. And it's an incredible collaboration, so our listeners bear with us. There are so many moving parts to this performance.
Well,
it's amazing.
and that's what it sounded like when I was reading up on it. So,
well, first of all, tell us about Verdigris, and because to me, I think of it. I'm a science major.
Yeah.
I think of it as what happens to copper, like the Statue of Liberty. Mm-hmm. That's Verdigris. That's the color.
Yeah.
And the substance that happens to copper, and that's the name of your organization. So tell us a bit about your organization, and we'll get to this performance.
Yeah, so Verdigris is, like you said, it's the blue-green patina that coats copper when it's exposed to the elements. It gives a different perspective and color to the metal than you would find with the metal in pristine form. And that's sort of what we want to leave our audiences with. We want to leave them with a new color and perspective from the time that they walk into the door to watch a Verdigris concert to the time that they walk out. So the premise of Verdigris Ensemble is, you know, we're a choral ensemble based in Dallas, but our goal really is to reach people who have no idea about what choral music is. So we do that through creative concert programming, through collaboration, through modern instruments, to weave a story around the medium. So one of the most important tenets of our organization is we want to create connections with people where connections haven't yet been made. We know that vocal music is one of the most important mediums and one of the most ancient mediums for music. I mean, ever since the beginning of man, we've seen some sort of vocal music, and I think
you don't even need an instrument,
right? You just need yourself. Yeah, exactly, and that's something that's so.
Unless it's Josh and me singing.
Yeah, I doubt that, but
no, it's pretty bad.
So the vocal medium itself is already so personal and so vulnerable. Creating a concert around stories just augments the entire experience for the audience. So that's a little bit about what Verdigris is. We've done a couple of different concerts. To give you an example, we did a concert called The Constellation of Apollo, which took the direct transcripts of the Apollo 8 mission around the moon and set it to music. We worked with the UT Arlington Planetarium scientists last year to simulate to the audience what the astronauts would have seen as they were on the mission, as they were saying the words that we were singing, that were set to music. Some other stuff we did, we just did a concert actually this past Monday on anthracite coal mining, on the anthracite coal mining industry in the early 20th century. And that was the piece is called Anthracite Fields. It was part of Saluna Festival. And it was written by Julia Wolf, and who won a Grammy, or not a Grammy, but a Pulitzer Prize for it in 2014. The piece itself is so interesting because every movement gives a different type of perspective on coal mining, and all of that is rounded out with projections of actual coal mining families, pictures of coal miners, of like the area in which the coal mining was, the area that we were talking about, and so on and so forth. So it's all about the story, and if we can create that human story connection with our audience, then it doesn't matter what medium we use. Choral music is just a vehicle for us to tell those types of stories. So,
well, it sounds very tactile in a way, because you're using all your senses and to be present in the room while all of this visual and sound and everything is going on. It's you're right, it just really expands the whole experience.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, millennials these days really yearn for experience rather than just beautiful music. It seems like, and from everything that I've read and researched. And so, you know, it's important for us to create that experience. It's important for us to envelop the audience, you know, so that they're hearing more than just pleasing music to the ears, you know? So, like, the addition of video projection, the addition of other visual arts components, the addition of, like, movement, that's all incredibly important to tell the story as honestly and as, you know, as effectively as possible.
Wow.
Stephen, how do you fit into all of this? I mean, we saw you working, and we kept saying, okay, we're going to turn the microphone so people can see. but you were here for one show and took some wonderful pictures that we've been using a little bit. How do you fit into this?
Well, first of all, your studio looks beautiful. So when I took the photograph, you guys look fantastic.
And the beautiful photographs.
The lighting is great. Myself, I'm a visual artist. I'm a painter and a creative director in communication design. So I was a creative executive at Fossil for about 20 years. And then now I'm a professor at UNT in communication design. I think nowadays creativity, just like Sam said, is multidimensional. It's, you know, no longer just if you're in your category and you just do that. In order to connect with the audience, you need to make a human connection. It's most time community driven. You need to engage with people and you need to do storytelling. So for me, I paint. Watercolor is my painting medium. They're large scale, 4 or 5 feet in general.
So life size for me.
Huh?
That would be life size for
It's
me.
bigger.
Bigger.
Yes.
Yes.
So, Patti, in this performance, you might be big.
I might be. Like, tower over you.
Yeah. And I also work on branding projects for companies, and they're all multidimensional: videos, writing, and visual, photography, graphics, everything. So Sam and I met about a year and a half ago through a friend's introduction. The friend said, you guys need to meet each other. So we met. And Sam always, based on his vision for verdigris, he wanted to collaborate. And that's exactly what I was looking for, something new. And then by hearing his vision and going to his concerts, I realized this is new in Dallas. We talk about interesting projects like Humans of New York and things like that. It's like, people charting different paths, but you can't find it in Dallas. And then I've been looking for opportunity to collaborate with other creative people. So it took us quite a while to come up with ideas. We brainstorm. So my specific part in this concert is I'm the sort of visual guy. Sam will talk about the faces that we represent, but I create large-scale portraits, 4 by 5 feet. Of each of the face, but some of the faces multiple people. And then Sam was nice enough to ask me to be on the board of verdigris some time ago. So I also create their marketing materials. So same thing, we create program book. I hired a help to work on the video. So we want to create a sort of a holistic experience. We also have an on-site large-scale blackboard, so people can continue to tell us with their writing what they think Dallas is. Yeah.
And let's talk about that come in a little bit. But I want to ask you, I do photography. I write for Dallas Voice, and I do some of the photography. It's not the thing that I think of first. I'm bad that way. And when I get a great picture, boy, was I lucky. I can't see that little screen on my camera, and so I'm never sure if I got it, not to be a little bit blurry, so I take 20 pictures at a time. We saw what you were doing. You were walking around the studio here and getting every angle of to mostly get Patti, but you got the rest of us in here too, because we don't have that much room. You're going to catch the rest of us. What were you looking for when you were here?
Well, in my portrait paintings, I look for I paint the people that I respond to, the people that I have a connection, sympathy, and respect. So I've been painting portraits of different people from around the world. And in painting it, I'm trying to understand the story. So my painting will tell the story sometimes in a minimal way, only through the portrayal of their, the figure and the faces. Sometimes it's the environment. So what I was trying to look for, I'm doing the same thing as you're doing, and you just shoot quite as many as I can, because it's, think fast and slow. You never think fast enough. So you just try to capture the people in action. So people in the moment, a glance, a expression, because of what I try to do is when I'm painting it, it's more like a character study. I'm trying to understand the person by, why this detail is there on their face, is because, so knowing, talking to, at least meeting the person is important. And so photography really just a tool for my painting.
So what did you learn about Patti while you were here?
I learned Patti is very generous, very kind, has a sharp mind, but not sharp tongue. That's what I learned.
Oh, thank you very much. Did you hear that, David?
Yeah, I did. But I've missed all those things. I guess that's why I can't get a good picture of you, Patti.
But that's just my observation.
No,
obviously,
actually, it's very accurate.
I'll learn more.
It's very accurate. That really is very accurate. So, by spending an hour here, actually even more, because you were here before the show, and we stuck around a little bit after the show. Did she relax during that hour? Did you find?
I think she's been relaxed.
She was relaxed from the beginning?
She seemed to be just a relaxed person anyway. No pretentious and
no pretensions, but sometimes when I'm taking pictures of people who are not used to being photographed, and I mean, we do radio, so, and we dress for radio to be on here. But we all had our KNON shirts on, and that's what's going to be in the show.
Yeah.
Station manager will be very happy.
Yes. Maybe he'll come to the performance.
Well, we'll have to let him know.
Yeah, we'll have to get him the times and everything.
Very often, if I'm photographing somebody, you know, they're very stiff, and it might be a press conference, so which I went to yesterday. I went to one, so they're stiff. They're at the microphone, and you never want to use those pictures because they're boring. But then if you can get them afterwards and ask a couple of questions, no, let me take a couple of pictures, and that's when I start snapping again. You get them more relaxed. But right. I guess we come in here, I think we make some of our guests nervous, Patti, because we're so relaxed, and a lot of people have never been on radio before, and and they realize that.
Well, I always tell folks, come comfortably dressed and relax, because we're just going to chat.
Yeah.
And that's what we're about.
That's what we're doing. So am I doing it the right way? And I'm asking for the professional advice here because
I think you're doing exactly the right way.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and so, but I guess Patti came in the way you usually come in, just flying in the last minute and comfortable.
I'm always comfortable, David.
Yeah.
I'm always comfortable.
Always comfortable. Okay, so then we're going to break in just a second. Did you interview Patti at all for this, or you did?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, we need to take a break. Let's talk about that when we come back from the break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink. Lerone has the day off because it's Easter, and he's smashing Easter eggs or something on his daughter. And our guests are Sam Brukhman and Stephen Zhang. They are from Verdigris, and the show that they're putting on next week, it is next week, right? Yeah.
Show next
coming
weekend
is Faces of Dallas. We'll be back with more right after this.
This is Rollins Gilliland, and I'm listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3, and darn glad to be doing it.
And welcome back to Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio. Your microphone wasn't on. Sam is like, oh, what did I do? We were just, you didn't do anything. This is Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet with Patti Fink. Lerone has the week off. Sam Brukhman is the artistic director of Verdigris, and Stephen Zhang was in our studio several weeks ago photographing the late Patti Fink. It's amazing, Patti, that he actually got you, because every time he took a picture, then you were in it.
Amazing how it works.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But
Leave it to David. Our listeners are used to David.
You know how their wedding started. I got up front and I took out my phone and I said, put my phone up to my ear, and I said, oh, it's Patti. And pointed at my phone, and everybody started laughing. I said, she's running a few minutes late, but she'll be right. She'll be here soon. Everybody started laughing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's true.
Yeah.
I was there, though. So.
Yes. Go ahead.
Oh, we were just going to talk about how you got started on Faces of Dallas and what this whole project was, you know, what the vision was for the project, how you even got started.
Yeah. So I have to start by saying how much of a treasure it was to find Stephen, because he was in the right place at the right time for us, or maybe we were in the right place in the right time for him, because we were looking for someone with marketing expertise, and specifically design. I was introduced to Stephen, through a mutual friend, and when I saw his watercolor, I was like blown away. I mean, when you look at watercolor, you don't expect, tiny details to pop into a face that you see or a person, and all of a sudden, when I looked at Stephen's portraits, it was amazing to me that you could get that sort of detail out of watercolor. So I met Stephen the first time, and I was just totally blown away by how earnest he is, and also how devoid of ego he is for such an amazing artist.
Yeah, and I want to say again, the photos are gorgeous.
Yeah.
So
They really
Yeah,
are. They're a treasure. I mean,
Yeah. And so, you know, I was invited to his house one day for the first time. And, you know, when you walk in his house, you see multiple different portraits of some of the paintings that you see on his website. It's one thing to see it online, but it's another thing to see it in person. There's something so special and so specific to seeing it in
what's the
person.
difference between going to the Dallas Museum of Art on their website and going down and seeing the actual, you know, whichever painting?
Exactly. I mean, there's there's almost no comparison.
Right.
So when I was able to, when I saw that, it was like unbelievable. So when we sat down and talked, my first statement to Stephen was, we have to find a way to collaborate, because your art needs to be seen by people. And I think we can weave a really, really amazing story out of this. And so then we kind of went back and forth for a long time. We talked about it, and we came up with the idea of the Faces of Dallas. So the Faces of Dallas is, in short, it is a celebration of our city through the people, through its people. And there are several different facets to this. You know, we have a survey that we distributed, and we got like over 900 responses from people in Dallas.
How did you get that out there?
Oh my gosh.
Social media mostly?
Well, social media, we did it through social media. We did it through, you know, any sort of media that would pick up the story. We also, we luckily have a lot of our singers are connected to different communities. Some of them are educators, some of them sing in church choirs, some of them go to, you know, clubs and different events, and so we just kind of asked everybody to take a whole bunch of surveys and have their people fill it out.
So what were you asking?
We're asking one simple question, that is, finish this sentence, Dallas is. And we got a really amazing array of different responses. People saying, you know, Dallas is a great place for the arts. Other people saying Dallas is okay, but it can be better. Dallas is extremely segregated. Dallas needs change. Dallas is home. You know, all sorts of different responses. And below that, we asked the survey, the people taking the survey, to answer why they said the response above. It was an optional question, but it was amazing to me to find how these people responded to that question. I mean, it was like they were pouring their lives out onto a piece of paper, talking about very personal things to someone they had no idea of, and sometimes it was under anonymity. And you know, it worked, and it was captivating. It was interesting. It gave me perspectives that I had never had of this city. One of the biggest things, you know, I'm not a original Dallas resident. I moved here 4 years ago, and when I moved here, one of the first things that I thought was, oh, Dallas is like, you know, Dallas is making its history now. It doesn't have history. But as I've gone through this process, it's been eye-opening to see that Dallas actually has a lot of history and important history that we, for whatever reason, just are not talking about right now. And these aspects all combined together really are the reason why we are doing the Faces of Dallas, because there's so much Dallas history. There's so many people here that are diverse and rich in culture, that we need to be able to give their voices to the community. I think you can, being the fact that Dallas is a drivable city. You have to get everywhere by car.
Well, it used to be.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's less so now, right?
A whole lot less so.
Yeah.
well, I usually say it's like everybody has to have their horse.
Right. Yes.
know?
Exactly. Everybody has to have their horse.
Resource Center just opened their dental program, and it's up on Forest Lane, just past us. On a Thursday afternoon, getting from Oak Lawn to Forest Lane, it took 1 hour.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised by that either.
Yeah, but those of us who've lived here a long time, it's like, what is going on in this city?
Yeah.
We don't think of it as drivable anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Well, listen, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's come a long way. I think for the average person, it's easy for someone to, get in their car in the morning, go to work, get back in their car, go to the place that they always go to, see the same people as they usually see, and then go home. I mean, when you're in New York City, for example, you can walk from Brooklyn to Manhattan and bump into millions of different neighborhoods and cultures on your way.
Sure.
Here, we're still developing that, and I hope that we will become a walkable city someday, because that's one of the things I really love about cities in general. So the point of the concert is to really showcase and celebrate the city and celebrate its cultures that people might not be aware are here. And so all this to say, there are many different parts to this. We have the responses, which we just talked about, the survey responses.
And Josh, how would you answer Dallas's?
I don't know.
We got some of those responses.
Well, I was going to say Dallas is Patti Fink, obviously.
Yeah.
I had a response to that.
Did you?
Yeah, I did.
Huh.
What was it?
It was Dallas is a place where we're willing to try new things.
Yes. Yeah, and that's actually in the solo music we actually feature that line at the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
Yes. So we have the survey responses. We commissioned 20 local Dallas poets to write 3 lines of poetry, and these poets talked about everything between, what Dallas looked like growing up versus now, gentrification, those sorts of issues that we're facing in Dallas. 3 lines of poetry. Very interesting to see what these 20 poets did with it.
And it was just the same question to all 20 of them.
Well, it was just like, we had a committee, and we developed a prompt for poets to write 3 lines of poetry based on the prompt that is like, what is Dallas to you? Write about something about Dallas. We tried to make it non-specific, but specific enough to where we would be able to understand or to convey to
that
the
they weren't
audience.
just talking about something that what's he talking about?
Exactly. We also
Are they haikus?
almost, actually. Yeah, almost.
Since there are 3 lines.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's the second part. The third part is we have a young composer competition. We started one this year. This is the first year of it, where we opened to young composers aged between high school to college to submit a piece of music on a prompt also that is, Faces of Dallas. And 2 of those composers are getting featured on this concert. One is an undergraduate at SMU. Her name is Julia Durbin. And the other one is a high schooler at the Fort Worth Academy of Fine Arts, I believe.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and also the
Really?
Texas Boys Choir.
Don't you love that somebody from high school had that kind of talent?
Yeah, actually, his name is Noah Salem. Noah is incredibly talented. I mean, he came to one of our rehearsals for Faces of Dallas and sort of talked through his music, and it was really, really captivating and interesting.
So how long are each of these pieces of music?
The composer's music is anywhere between 2 to 4 minutes long, but that fits into a larger sort of libretto music of the concert. So,
and was that put together by one person? How did this all fit together?
Yeah. So all of this text is wrapped around the act of being set to music, and that is being set to music by New Jersey-based composer David Ross Lawn. So I've known David for a long time. We went to college together. He's originally from Scotland, and he moved to New Jersey to attend Westminster Choir College in Princeton. And he's really wonderful. I've seen his work. I've worked with him. We sang in the same choirs in college, and he's just a really talented person, really talented pianist and composer. So when I thought about doing this project originally, I thought, I could use a local Dallas composer for all of this, or I could use someone that may not have a bias towards Dallas and may not know anything about Dallas. And he'll choose. So we went with David because we wanted to give a non-biased opinion, or not opinion, but a non-biased view of what the city is. So he's the person, he and I sort of went back and forth choosing the text that we were going to use and how we were, like the order of it all. And
So the text was from these 20 poets.
20 poets, 900 responses, interviews that we did, which I'll get into in just a minute. Yeah, so he's basically the person that's setting all of this. The final component to this whole entire project is through our responses and through our surveys and by reaching out into the community, we identified 4 faces of Dallas, 4 people that we wanted to document their stories and tell them during the concert. So we have a man named Donald Payton, who is a descendant of one of the first Black/African American families living in Dallas. He's fascinating because he knows so much history. He was also part of the first integrated school at UNT, which was back then known as North Texas State. He also, his experiences living in Dallas post-World War II, talking about how people still wore their army uniforms and what that was like in Deep Ellum it's fascinating and captivating, talking about all that stuff. And actually, at the end of the interview, just like I did with Patti, I asked him, you're going to have 600 people probably over the next 3 days, during these concerts. What is it that you want to tell them? And his message was, Dallas has gotten a lot better, but it can be better. And it can get better. And we need to make sure not to limit our scope of thinking when it comes to making this city a great place to live in. I was sort of taken aback by that, and because I thought to myself, well, we just had Barack Obama as a president, and we have Byron Sanders with Big Thought, and a number of people in the African American community that are leaders now. And I asked him, I was like, "Don't you feel like it's getting better?" And he said, "Well, yeah, but a lot of it is it's an illusion of inclusion," and that was something
I agree with that.
Yeah, so there's so much that was like, whoa, that totally changed my perspective on things. So he's fascinating in that way. Just hearing his stories about him growing up in Dallas and what it's like now. Our second face is an Afghan refugee family. Now, first of all, who would have thought that Afghan refugees live in Dallas? First of all, but it was.
I have an interesting stat on that.
Yeah.
This is from the city of Dallas. The city's population continues to grow, with almost 25% of residents being foreign-born.
Yeah.
Immigrants make up almost 32% of the employed labor force in the Dallas metro area, and they play a critical role in several key industries, including accounting for almost 70% of construction workers. Their work contributes directly to the economic strength of the city, earning $7.9 billion and contributing $591.1 million to state and local taxes in 2016.
Patti,
That's amazing.
Do you think that'll continue, though, now that the country's full?
I don't know. With it being full, I don't know. Everybody's going to have to work harder.
I guess.
So all that to say, this Afghan refugee family was so interesting and really quite emotional, because they just moved to the United States 3 years ago. And they were telling me, when they were living in a small Afghan village, their food was being stolen and their valuables were being taken by other tribes and also the Taliban. And so at a certain point, when they started taking children, their husbands told them, "You have to go." And they said, just go in one direction and eventually you'll hit a border. So they hit the border of Iran. They went into Iran and then eventually ended up in Turkey, and from there they immigrated to the United States.
Wow.
To this day, they have no idea. They haven't heard from their husbands. They don't know if they're alive or where they are right now. And they were telling me, I asked them the same question that I asked everybody, and they basically said, we thought that moving to a new country would be the hardest part. But what we're finding is that the hardest part is adapting to a new culture and learning the language. So,
our synagogue has brought in a number of refugees to just join us and have a nice Friday night with us, or to be speakers. So one woman who is a Syrian refugee has been several times. Her story is fascinating. She speaks beautifully. And again, she's only been here, what is it, Josh, 2 or 3 years, something like that. And what she went through in Syria and then moved to Saudi Arabia, a great place for a woman who's single to move, and moved to several other places before she got to the United States, taught herself English, and now she's teaching English as a second language to other refugees. I mean, and she speaks so beautifully. Anybody who wants to keep people like this out of our country, it's painful.
Yeah,
it is. It's painful and it's an international embarrassment.
Well, here in Dallas, we welcome people.
We do.
That's my Dallas.
The groups in Dallas, because we think about Dallas as a fast-growing, economic and glass buildings and glitzy stuff like that. But there are a lot of people who are doing hard work. We got to know the refugee family through Breaking Bread, Breaking Border, which is an organization helping the refugees and through catering and giving them opportunities and teaching them American way of doing business. So it's very humbling to see the people who are helping and the people who are helped.
Yeah.
We need to take a break. You're listening to Lambda Weekly on 89.3 Knon FM. I'm Dave Taffet here in the studio with the late Patti Fink. Our guests are Sam Brukhman and Stephen Zhang. They are from Verdigris. Their performance next week is called Faces of Dallas. It's going to be held at
Arts Mission Oak Cliff.
Okay, which is just off of 12th Street, 12th and Winnetka. Yes?
Yes, it's on Windermere.
It's Windermere.
Yes.
Windermere. It's an old church building that's been turned into theater.
Exactly.
Basically. Yeah. We'll be back with more Lambda Weekly right after this.
Hi, this is Valletta Lil, and I listen to Lambda Weekly. I hope that you will too.
And this is Lambda Weekly. I'm Dave Taffet here with Stephen Zhang and Sam Brukhman, who are from Verdigris. Their performance next week is called Faces of Dallas, and one of those Faces of Dallas is also here with us. Her name is the late Patti Fink.
Yes.
I guess not for the performance, though.
No,
for the late.
You're not the late Patti Fink in the performance.
She's
just Patti
Yes.
Fink. So for any of our listeners who go, don't be confused. It is the same person.
Right.
Yeah.
There is actually another Patricia Fink in Dallas, which is really.
She's the early Patricia Fink.
Maybe so. She once wrote a letter to the editor one time, and she was way right wing, way over there, and people were, friends of mine were calling and saying, "What, how? I didn't know this about you." And I was, well, it's not me. I mean, this is not the way I live and believe. And they're like, okay. So I had to be aware then that there was another Patti Fink out there in Dallas.
So Faces of Dallas, there are 4 faces that you followed. The first one you said was Donald Payton, who's an African-American senior.
He's a genealogist.
His family dates back
to the
1800s.
Yeah, one of the first families living in Dallas.
And then an Afghan refugee family that you spoke to. And how many people in that family?
It's 2 sisters, Jamila and Sharifa. And they have a number of, I think it's 4 or 5 kids.
They have some children now.
Yeah, they have kids. Yeah.
Then the third one is Griner Middle School.
Yeah.
Which is right across. If you know where Griner is, this theater is kind of across the street from there.
Yeah. So Griner was actually sort of an unexpected face. We did a 4-week residency with Griner Exploratory Arts Academy students, where a quartet of our singers came into that middle school twice a week and gave free voice lessons, free music enrichment, master classes, mentorship opportunities, and so on and so forth. And we were all so captivated by how talented these kids are. Normally some of these kids would not be able to afford voice lessons or music lessons in general. And the fact that we were in there, I mean, they were so focused and so talented. Our 4-week residency culminated in a commission piece of music by one of our other singers who's also a composer, and her name is Meredith Tompkins. And we took, we had students fill out a poetry, a piece of poetry. They would submit a piece of poetry, and we chose 2 of those students to set that poetry to music. And then we premiered that composition for the first time with them in concert during one of their concerts at Griner.
Wow.
It was a really amazing experience to see these middle school kids, really rally around this composition. I mean, it was not an easy composition. I mean, I would say this is definitely for early high school age, and they were able to get it like it was nothing. So that was really inspiring to us. These kids that may not have had all of the resources to be able to take voice lessons, not only soak it all up, but want more and ask for more.
Dallas schools get a bad rap, but we have some of the best schools in the U.S. News and World Report ranking. We have a few schools that rank right on the top there nationally.
Well, it's the reason I moved to Dallas. I'm a music educator. The reason I moved to Texas was because Texas has a reputation for how good its music education is. Texas consistently rates as one of the best schools in the nation, or one of the best education systems for music, and specifically for choral music. There's something called UIL, the University Interscholastic League, which I think started with sports, and then somehow, the marching band was like, well, we want a competition too, and then
I think it thought of it as Title IX too.
Right, exactly, yeah. And then choir eventually was like, well, we want a competition too. So every year, teachers take their choirs to competition, and it's always, they get ratings, and
it's serious business.
Yes, it is.
But that's what gets the interest in it up. If we just had good programs, the legislature would defund them completely. We can use that money better to pass bathroom bills, right?
Right.
But instead, when you have a competition, this one's choir is against that one's choir, it's that competition spirit that we have here.
Yeah. And on that note, the Texas legislature, somebody in the ledge has introduced a bill that mandates that a football game happen between UT and Texas A&M every year.
I think that's a good law.
That could be Texas law. I digress, but...
I'm going to have Julie write a bill that we have to be on Sunday afternoon.
That would be great.
Because when we were on Wednesday morning, that was torture.
Yeah.
So we'll get that bill done. But I digress. So Griner is a music school, and how many kids did you follow there?
We reached, I think, about 150 students.
Wow.
We did a 4-week residency with, like I said, the quartet, which went in twice a week, and then that culminated in a joint performance with all of the Verdigris ensemble, which was it was almost all. It was 12 singers, 12 professional singers that came in on the day of and workshopped the kids and got them, concert ready, and we had the concert that evening. So one of the most interesting things when I was doing my interview with these students was many of them live in Oak Cliff, and already at their age they're beginning to notice a difference in Oak Cliff. The vast gentrification, how quickly it's happening, and they spoke a lot about that, a lot about their experience, saying things like, well, we grew up in an Oak Cliff that we no longer recognize. We don't know what it looks like anymore. We don't recognize some of the streets anymore because it's growing so quickly.
And I'm right there with them. I lived in Oak Cliff for 30 years. And when I go back down to Oak Cliff, I live in Oak Lawn now, but when I go back down to Oak Cliff, I have to look at street signs.
Yeah.
In some neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know where I am. It's like...
Yeah.
Yeah, the landmarks are gone.
Yeah, this is home, but, I'm
originally from New Jersey, and New Jersey generally is considered to be a state that is almost like a bedroom community to New York City.
Those of us who grew up in New York. don't care for New Jersey.
But New Jersey, like I thought when I was growing up in New Jersey, I grew up in a small town called Cranford. I thought that Cranford developed very rapidly over a period of 10 years and is still developing. But when I go down to Oak Cliff, even like in a year, it's like almost unrecognizable.
Right.
It's like, it's crazy. So that was a really interesting perspective from those kids, those students.
Well, and then the fourth one, let's talk about her a little bit. Her name is Patti Fink.
The late Patti Fink.
The late Patti Fink. Well, but for your performance, she's just
Patti Fink, yes.
And not the right-wing one who writes letters to the morning news, but the one who's here in our studio.
Every week.
How the hell did you find her?
Yeah, really.
So, we have been very fortunate to keep in touch with the Office of Cultural Affairs and with the Cultural Affairs Commission particularly. And I reached out to Cultural Affairs Commissioner at Large, Knon Flowers.
Who's been a guest many times on our show.
That's awesome. Very good. So Knon, I asked him about, we're looking, for a face. Can you recommend one? And he said, I have just the person. Let me get back to you. And here comes Patti Fink. So I met Patti Fink for the first time when I sat down for an interview with her. And I just have to say...
How late was she?
She wasn't late.
I wasn't late.
She was I think she was even early.
She wasn't early.
So, Patty's perspective on, Dallas and what it has been and what it is now was really captivating, and particularly, she mentioned Section 2106 in the Texas State Penal Code, State of Texas Penal Code, and which is the section that states.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Homosexual conduct.
Yes, it's homosexual conduct, and I don't remember the exact wording of it. When I looked at the document, it says in like italics on the top right before the section, this section is not enforceable,
Under Lawrence v. Texas, which was a decision in 2003.
Exactly. So by the Supreme Court. So, but it's still in there.
Over 15 years now.
Yeah.
Right. Every year there's a resolution to clean up the bills or the laws.
Yeah.
Like things that are unconstitutional, things that have been rewritten, and they always pull that one out of that bill, put it into its own separate bill, send it to committee where it always dies.
Yeah.
It's just, they keep it in just for spite.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was just like on a human level, not even, just on a human level. I could not imagine, what it would feel like for a community to have a law that states that it's wrong to be the way that you are.
We're illegal.
Yeah.
That's what it was for a long time, and so many things grew from that. So if it's illegal to be gay, then it's illegal. If you're a teacher and you're a gay teacher, then you're a criminal. They've hired a criminal to work in this school district. Well, no. You know what I mean? But you can see where that can lead to all kinds of.
Well, they didn't hire gay cops.
Every profession. Yeah. You're hiring a criminal under Texas code.
Yeah, they didn't hire any, and I'm saying they didn't hire any whole bunch of lesbian cops that predate Lawrence v. Texas.
Oh, sure.
But, you couldn't openly be who you were.
Yeah. Yeah, so on a simply, human level, that was really compelling and perspective changing for me, because I can't imagine going through something like that or the way that I would feel if that was the case. And so, given the fact that the LGBT community in Dallas is, alive and well and huge.
It's one of the largest in the country.
Yes. we thought that it was really important to feature that, and also to feature the fact that there is good news in that, Dallas has an LGBT non-discrimination ordinance.
It's not an ordinance, actually. We do have an ordinance, but it's in the city charter.
Gotcha. So it's in the city charter.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And I think that that's all. Speaking strictly on a human level, I think that's like a really wonderful, wonderful perspective, and the way that we are growing as a city is encouraging.
Reading the Patti story, and then also look at the faces. We feel like they represent a struggle for a better future for the community. People who are not only just out there climbing the corporate ladders and moving up to bigger houses, but there are people who's there for working on behalf of the community, on a better future for the city. So I think that's very important for me when I'm painting them. I'm trying to kind of see what I see out of that.
Yeah.
So and I think that's true with thinking about all the faces. We do bring a different perspective, but we're all just driving toward that.
And that's actually something that we didn't discover until we were actually in the process
putting it together.
Yeah, when we had all of this data, we started looking at it, and it was surprisingly easy to piece the surveys with the poets, with the interviewees together into a musical product. You'd think that it'd be really hard, but
so they're not intertwined in the concert. It's a piece about Patti, a piece about Donald Payton, or are they?
So I would encourage people to think about it as a holistic, almost like a musical theater production or an opera.
Yeah, when I say not intertwined, I mean it's not Patti, Donald, Griner.
No. Well, it is, but it's like in between there are the poets, and the responses sort of guide the listener into those portraits. So like
cool.
we took the responses that were similar to what Patti was talking about, and so we introduce Patti through these responses, and then we get a little bit more specific with the poetry. And then we get into the specificity of the actual person.
Okay, so the specificity of the actual person part, what happens to this music after this performance?
So that's a really great question. We want to continue doing this. There's no question that financially it's a really big production to put on, because we have the visual
composers and poets and
this is a part of a larger project that we're looking at over the next 5 to 10 years on a bigger compilation of Dallas. So every other year we're going to be doing something that's going to be on the history of Dallas, and eventually we'll take aspects of every concert and put it into one large production.
So here's my typical me question. So can we have a copy of the Patti Fink song?
Yeah, absolutely.
We need to play it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can put it on there.
We are recording it during we're recording the entire concert on all three days. So we're happy to
get that. That would be also awesome. And Cannon Flowers is such a treasure in Dallas. He's been on this show for many different reasons because his activism spans such a broad area.
And he started so many organizations. Artitude, which is one of your sponsors now, is his newest organization, and Coalition of Aging LGBT, but Immigration Equality, because he went through was it a 20-year or 21-year fight to keep Rafiq, his husband, in the country.
Yes.
And he said that I had mentioned in my interview with you about I mentioned Laura Miller and the non-discrimination ordinance, and apparently there's verbiage in the composer included words about Laura Miller. So now we're going to see if Laura Miller will come to the concert.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Well, we are out of time. Do you have music cued? I'm just looking. I've been talking. I haven't seen you running around behind me, Josh. Sam Brukhman and Stephen Zhang and Patti Fink, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Patti, you have to come back next week, though.
Yes, I did.
Give us all the details again.
So in order to buy tickets, you go to verdegreemusic.org/faces. So VERDIGRIS music.org/faces, as in a face.
If you just remember Verdigree and search it, you'll find that.
Yeah, and we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
And the concert is next Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday afternoon. They won't want to go to the Sunday afternoon because they'll miss the show.
Yeah, I'll have to miss the show, though. I didn't think so.
No, are you going to be at all three performances?
No, I'm going to do the other one on Sunday.
Just on Sunday. Okay.
I may be able to go to the one on Friday, but I'm definitely going to be there on Sunday. We're going to do a panel.
Patty will be on the panel.
Yeah.
On what day?
Yeah, so the panel to meet the actual faces, that's going to be on Sunday. So after the concert.
And our guest next week is?
I don't know.
I can't remember. I keep it written on my desk at work, and that was Friday, and today is Sunday, so you can't expect me to have that kind of a memory. For all of us here at Lambda Weekly and Knon, be best.
This is William, hopefully your favorite videographer from Two Hats Publishing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please leave comments below, or like, follow, or subscribe to us and get notices of all our videos. We love it, even when you call.